move on to a short interactive segment of today's symposium. I invite Shri Chiranjiv Singh to moderate the Q&A session and request the other esteemed panelists to join in responding questions. We also invite questions from the audience, but I guess we'll start with the questions that Sir may have for the panelists.
Sir, let me start the panel discussion with you, because the Professor Achyut Rao endowment has focused on the Mysore history and native states in many of the publications. Was this part of the same series that the native state of Bastar and the narrative by the ex-ruler of Bastar, who was shot dead in cold blood, to be taken up and focus attention on the good administration of the native states?
Sir, when I came across Dr. Ram and Mr. Ram's efforts to put this together, obviously I did not know. But what fascinated me was that Dandakaranya was such a large geography, and Kakatiyas from coastal Andhra Pradesh ruled for several centuries. And they seem to have ruled it in a more peaceful, collaborative manner with the tribals than the post-independent India. And that is what interested me, that how is it that the what you call less European educated rulers pre-independence were able to understand their subjects and rule and administer and govern better, and why such a system was destroyed post-independence in the name of integration. That's what fascinated, and in continuation of integration of princely states like Mysore, I thought this was a wonderful subject to bring it to the public. That's how the book.
But thanks to your interest in the subject, we have this very, very important book brought out today. And thank you, Baksa. Now my question to the learned editors is, you have given us the picture of Bastar as it was seen by an East India Company functionary who was probably the second European. The first one was, I think you have mentioned in this book, somewhere in the 18th century, but he was killed by the tribals, and this was the second one. So the first account by an East India Company person is this Glassford's report. And then, of course, there is the narrative by the ex-ruler, Maharaja Praveer Chandra. So, post Maharaja Praveer Chandra's death, how do you see the developments that have taken place? And how do you see the tribal culture moving forward?
That's an important question. Maharaja Praveer Chandra Bhanjdev was not just a Maharaja. For the British, perhaps he was a Maharaja. But for the tribes, he was the head priest. And they revered him for that reason. During Dasara, Praveer Chandra Bhanjdev would quit the throne, would quit the palace, and sit as the head priest of Danteshwari. And the Dasara in Bastar, which the government tries to promote as a tourist attraction, the Dasara in Bastar was really a congregation of the deities in various smaller parts of the state. It was a practice that they would come once in a year. It was also combined with the review of revenue collection and the Maharaja gifting whatever he desired to gift to the people. And it is interesting that when the deed of accession took place, we know that the property was divided into three categories. One was what they classified as the state property. One was what they classified as the Maharaja's, the ruler's property. And the third was, like the palaces and all, over which they had usufruct rights, that they could enjoy that, but they could not sell it or alienate it. In most of the states, there was a lot of hot discussion with regard to classification of these properties. In the case of Bastar, and maybe because Pravir Chandra Bhanjdev was ruling over Bastar at that time, the only point he insisted on inclusion in the deed of accession was that the state should continue to fund the celebration of Dasara in Bastar, which was a congregation of the various deities from various corners of the thing. In other words, he just wanted the native spirit and native culture and the native model of governance, if we extend the argument further, to continue. But post-independence, it was not just the leaders in Delhi, not just the leaders in Bhopal, but the petty leaders in Jagdalpur who had soaring aspirations and expectations from the new state. And therefore they conspired because they thought that this popular ex-Maharaja is going to sort of kill our prospects in the new order of things. And therefore they conspired against the Maharaja, and that led to the death. And once the death was there, then it all got scattered into what we see in all other parts of the nation today.
So, as you mentioned, that deities were brought at the time of Dasara to Jagdalpur. The same thing happens in Kulu, where deities from the surrounding areas are brought to Kulu at the time of Dasara. And even in Cuttack, at the time of the Ratha Yatra, it is the ruler, the descendant of the ruling family who is the first Sevayat, and he's the one who performs all the rituals. Similarly, you have in Virupaksh temple, there is one door which is still reserved, and it is opened only when the descendant of the Vijayanagar family comes for the Jatra. So these patterns are common, where the ex-rulers, including the Mysore rulers, whose deity was Chamundeshwari, and they were at the time of Dasara looked upon as the principal servers of the deity. So this is common, but how do you see the cultural evolution of the tribals in Bastar?
The problem is that post-independence, there was no Panchayati Raj immediately. And when Panchayati Raj came, it came from the top. It goes from top to down, the three-tier Panchayati Raj. This really ruined the role not only of the Raja, but of the natural leaders who were there in the various villages. And therefore, Bastar slid into the mainstream culture of superficiality, if that's the word, and uniformity across India. So that in the name of uniformity and development, the native culture got buried altogether with, I would say, Maharaja Praveer Chandra Bhanjdev. Because the Maharajas before him were also high priests of Danteshwari. But Maharaja Praveer Chandra Bhanjdev was supposed to have special mystical powers, whether real or not. But he had a magical charm over the people, all right. So that really got destroyed in the new order of things that emerged post-independence.
So, to Prasanna sir, coming from an economics background, the globalization and localization terminologies are being used, vocal for local, and the economic aspirations being given as a bait to the tribal ecosystem per se, because even Chiranjiv sir has been mentioning and other speakers also, that your local economy as a self-governed rule was a very beautiful rule, but when you opened up globalization, we can see the effects of globalization. So how do you see that, tribal ecosystem can still, I don't know, what do I term as prosperity, it has different connotations. But as Chiranjeev has mentioned that they have to exist, because if you all become one, and I feel that what we are trying to do, make everyone the same. And that's not the idea of creator of the universe also, I believe. We are all different. So
diversity is our strength, and any attempt to reduce this goes against our very culture and the very idea of India, whether it is economic integration, political integration, linguistic integration, cultural integration. Let 100 flowers bloom. As our state anthem says, Sarva Janangada Shanti Atota. This is a tota in which Nuraruhugala Arlide, let them go on blooming. Yes, Rajni ji.
Mine is not a question but an observation. After listening to all of you, I feel, are we not today observing what the tribals are still observing? We do not believe in the concept of marriage or one man or one woman. There's so much today we are talking of relationship. People live with somebody for some time and go and live with someone else and nobody questions it. So I felt it's like a full circle. We are going from the tribal, we are telling we are assimilating them, but we are actually going back and we are appreciating their ways of life, of living, their idea of freedom, their way of expressing and living their life in their own way. Today all the youngsters are saying we want to live the life the way we want to live. So isn't it a full circle?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, shortly there is going to be a discussion about Arundhati Ghosh's book on polyamory, which is about alternative ideas of marriage and sexuality. And these ideas are coming back, and that brings me to this question, since you have made this observation as to what is the state of Ghotul and the future of Ghotul culture in the tribal areas.
When Naxalism spread in Bastar after 1980, one of the first institutions to be attacked was the Ghotul. And strangely, it was attacked by both the government as well as the Naxal leaders, and for different reasons. Because the government had very conventional notions of morality, perhaps, and they thought that the Ghotul was against that. The Naxals thought that the Ghotul was helping tribals to come together and form a certain force, which they were not comfortable with. And therefore, the Ghotuls started dying one after another. The Ghotuls in Bastar were mostly in the Muria areas. As Elvin feels, that they were the best Ghotuls. And the Ghotuls were the centers of all that we understand by the term tribal culture, whether it's crafts or music or literature or whatever.
I think you
Literature,
should, sorry, I think you should begin by explaining what a Ghotul was to those who might not know it.
Yeah, maybe that's right, that some persons may not know what a Ghotul was. Ghotul was not exclusive to Bastar. Elvin feels it's there in most of the primitive societies in the world. In Bastar it was called Ghotul, in other places it might have had other names. This was that when a child grew up and say entered the teenage, then till the time the person left the teenage or got married, all the youth of a village stayed in a dormitory together, the men, as the boys as well as the girls. Now, here in the evenings, it was not a wild kind of an institution. It had its own organization. And in the evening, there'd be songs and there'd be dances and a jolly time. The Ghotul led to a lot of handicrafts of the tribes. But as I said, post-Naxalism and post-independence, this was an institution that was attacked, and maybe rightly too, because all the government and other visitors, I'm sorry to say that, who came, they saw that this as a place of entertainment and wanted to visit Ghotul and be there and spend the night there. You understand what I mean? This started creating problems, and therefore the government in general felt that it's not wise to encourage this.
Thank you. Sir of philosophy in the university, Patiala University, Punjabi University, when he was asked a question, and he was a foremost Veena player also, Rudra Veena, he was asked a question about the luxurious living, etc. He said, "What are you talking of? We had to get up before sunrise, first to exercise, then do horse riding practice, then do arms riding, then the lessons, music lessons. The whole day we did not have 1 hour of leisure to us." And that was the kind of training which the princes had. Now compare this kind of training to the training which an ordinary ML today has.
Thank you, sir, for leading such an informed and enriching discussion. I guess we are a little short on the time, but I'm sure that there are more questions coming in, and we do have lunch afterwards, so we'll take it up in an informal discussion. And I was really intrigued by the discussion that happened, and being a sort of, again, a development economist, you could say, and working in this sector for the past 25 years, what I know is that development is rarely ever linear. There are always losers and winners, and often those who don't have a voice in the decisions that are being made tend to be the losers. And there are always going to be the better-offs and the well-offs who get to have a higher sort of sense of adjudication on what claims are correct and what claims tend to be made. So these kind of, as Sir rightly said, these kind of efforts that the DSA Memorial Fund is making about bringing in alternative narratives and bringing them to light is a worthy cause.